The other 70% have to pee on the electric fence and find out for themselves. If you've ever been shocked by an electric fence, it's not a real pleasant deal, but it is a great way to stop creatures like that. And a little fence charger is very inexpensive. You can put that wire around it. It's very easy to turn it on and off. When I used to live in town, the first house I lived in San Antonio, the neighbors had a beagle that loved to come visit our yard, would dig under the fence every day. Suggested that they put one wire around 3 inches off the ground, and the beagle was a very friendly dog, but it stayed in his yard from then on. In the front yard where you want something that doesn't show, it might be an option. I deliver regularly to someone over in Whispering Oaks, and just to keep the deer out of their ground cover, they have an electric fence around their front yard. And so it might be another option just to look at.
Okay. Excuse me.
Yes.
I work for a vet, and I wanted to caution you guys on the blood meal. Don't leave it where your dogs can get into.
No, that's true. It will create
a big mess.
Severe gastric distress, shall we say.
Very much.
Yeah, this is the front yard, so my dogs wouldn't get in.
Will blood meal also work on the mice and rats? I mean, or what?
I don't know whether it will work for mice and rats or not. What I tend to use, because, you know, I hate poisons of all sorts. But if you look, you see those little plastic Coke trays over there like we have up there for people to use to pick up your bedding plants. You can turn that upside down over something so that larger animals are not likely to get into it. And I use glue traps. I, occasionally have to extricate a lizard or something like that from it. But glue traps, and they have some things in there that tend to euthanize the mice when they get on it. So again, inside my house and outside, wherever I can put them, I will use glue traps, and I just cover them with something like that. One time inside my house that made me realize the need to do that, I live in an old 100-year-old 2-story house with wooden floors. And one night, it sounded like I had a pirate coming up the 25 steps from first floor to next floor. It's ka-thump, drag, ka-thump, drag. I started to reach for a firearm of some sort, and I thought, no, I don't think that's anybody coming in. One of my little kitty cats had somehow gotten up on top of a shelf and gotten a glue trap stuck on a foot. This was a cat coming up the stairs, ka-thump, ka-thump. So we just got out the scissors and trimmed a little bit of hair off the foot, and everything was fine. But if you're going to use glue traps, do cover them so that domestic animals can't get into them. Not likely to hurt them, but it may wake you up in the middle of the night with strange sounds. Anything else about broccoli and cauliflower, cabbage, things like that? Okay, let's move on to probably, maybe the next crop you want to plant, and that could be garlic. How many like garlic? Everybody like garlic? Oh, good. Too much garlic is just enough. And it has wonderful health benefits. Garlic is also a natural fungicide. If you grow more garlic than you know what to do with, garlic juice stimulates so many beneficial fungi that they crowd out the damaging fungus. Plus, it's a great way to stop thrips and some other things. Garlic's just an extraordinarily healthful as well as useful product. If you want to grow garlic, there are like probably 200 or 300 different kinds. And if you're a real connoisseur, you can write off and have people send you garlic that you can plant. I just go over to Whole Foods or somewhere when I catch it on sale, and I buy a few big heads of garlic and just peel them open, break out those individual cloves, and every one of those cloves will grow a whole new garlic plant. And if you plant them at the proper time of year, which is October, every one of those little cloves will make a nice big head of garlic for you. That's true for the so-called elephant garlic, which is a different species, just like it is with most of the culinary garlics. You want to plant them. I plant them about 12 inches on center in the garden. And again, there is not really much of anything easier to grow. Plus, it's a pretty crop. Garlic just does extremely well in South Texas in the fall.
How deep?
Maybe an inch deep. But every spring I get all these calls from these people that say, I planted my garlic in March and it's really not looking too good. Plant your garlic in March. Plant your garlic in October. Yes, ma'am?
Do you peel the cloves?
No. No, just break them out and stick them in.
Can you do them in containers?
Big container, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Couple of things about growing garlic. Keep it properly watered. It doesn't mean drown it. But if you let garlic get drought stressed, it will be damaged by thrips insect, and you won't have nearly as good quality. Doesn't mean you have to spray or anything else, but if you will keep it adequately watered, that will not be a problem. If you let your garlic get too dry, it will not grow as well, and you will have more insect problems with it. But garlic's real easy to grow. Yes, ma'am?
How long is it before it matures after you plant it?
If you plant it in October, when it either blooms or when the heads or when the tops begin to fall over, it's time to harvest it. In my garden, that's usually around the 1st of June. Okay, so everybody's going to grow some garlic. Good. And like I say, you can get a lot of different kinds. If you really get into garlic, there are all kinds and colors and types of garlic, but they all grow very, very easily. Now, as the soil begins to cool down, which is typically, I never use the word normal when I talk about Texas weather, but typically in Texas our soil begins to cool where by the early part of October you can begin planting leafy things from seed, especially the different leaf lettuces and chard. Now spinach likes the soil cold. And I normally wouldn't plant spinach probably until late October. But lettuces and other leafy greens, mustard, all your different leafy greens, normally as the soil cools in early October you can plant them. Now if you're in a big hurry, you can buy them already up and growing. The growers, chilled their seed and they started it in very cool conditions. Nothing at all wrong with setting out little lettuce plants now. They'll grow just fine. But if you put out the seed is not going to sprout, not going to germinate and grow until the soil cools a bit. In the case of spinach, not going to grow until it gets fairly cold. Some of the growers even freeze spinach seed to try to get it to germinate better. But early October, typically, plant your leafy crops. Now, anyone who has ever planted lettuce seed knows that the seed is very, very small on most things, on most types of lettuce. And when you plant it, you're going to have lots and lots and lots of little plants come up. Same thing's going to apply to root crops, which we'll talk about in just a second. But the worst thing that you can do as far as having leafy spinaches or leafy lettuces not do well is to leave them too crowded. And I know it's real pretty to have that dense little row of plants coming up. They'll never amount to much if you don't get in and thin them out. And sometimes that means pulling out 10 plants for every one that you leave. But you know what? You don't have to throw them away. I tend to, take them and pinch the root off and just eat them as I thin them out. You can, wash them and put them in salads. There's just not much of anything that tastes better than those little bitty lettuce seedlings coming up. And a lot of things, actually the sprouts are more nutritious than the bigger plant is. We might use broccoli, for instance. And again, you're probably going to plant broccoli as plants rather than putting out seed. But a lot of y'all probably know broccoli has some wonderful anti-cancer compounds in it. But it seems that the plant starts out with a certain amount of these compounds. I can't remember the name right now. But it starts out with a certain amount, and the amount doesn't increase. So if you eat broccoli sprouts, you're getting the same amount of these chemicals as if you eat the entire plant later on. Lettuces don't contain all those same good things, but they have a lot of other good things in them. But many times the beneficial compounds in the plant are much more concentrated in a young plant. So when you're going through and thinning out your chard seedlings, your lettuce seedlings, your mustard seedlings, don't throw them away. Eat them. They're really good for you. Question?
I was just going to say, broccoli is one of the best sorts of calcium in a vegetable, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are all sorts of good things in broccoli. One of the things wrong with the former president is he doesn't like broccoli. So, I think there's part of the problem there. We won't go into that, however. But anyway, leafy vegetables, be time to start them. Now, I will tell you that lots and lots of things like to eat lettuce. If you have snails and slugs, they will dine on it. I remember years ago I had the pleasure of going to England and went into a pub called the Slug and Lettuce or something like that. And their sign is like had a corner of the sign eaten off, just as it would with the slug. Their business card had a corner of the business card eaten off. Thought it was very, very clever, but I don't like them eating my my veggies. This is one of the best things I know of for controlling snails, slugs, and in this case, pill bugs. Do not ever use bug bait anywhere, anytime, for any reason. Bug bait is highly toxic. Bug bait is so toxic that a teaspoon is enough to kill a small dog. I don't ever want to see bug bait in anybody's car that stops by here after having visited